of it. You might have said to yourself, I don't want to bother them. I don't want them to think I'm trying to sell, or I don't want them thinking I'm pushy. If you've had any of those thoughts, you are definitely not alone. Because after being in this business over 30 years and after coaching and training tens of thousands of real estate agents around the world, I can tell you this is the most common belief that agents struggle with. And that's why in today's blog, we are going to be talking about why staying in touch is not the same thing as being pushy, how to tell the difference between pressure and presence, and a simple filter that you can use before every interaction to make sure it has a relationship feeling in the conversation. Because many agents are not avoiding their sphere because they don't care. They're avoiding their sphere because of what they may think. And that is a very different problem. So let's start with this question. Have you ever received a phone call from a friend who was generally interested in you and you were happy to hear from them? Well, of course you have. Did you think, wow, that was really pushy? Of course you didn't. What about a former colleague who checked in or a neighbor who reached out? Did any of those things feel intrusive? Or did you just appreciate that they cared enough to connect? Most of us appreciate those thoughtful relationships. Yet, when it comes to our own sphere, we assume people are going to react differently. Why? Because we have confused presence with pressure. And that is why agents get stuck. They believe that staying in touch automatically creates pressure, but pressure doesn't come from frequency. Pressure comes from intent. Think about the last salesperson that called you and you were uncomfortable. It probably wasn't because they contacted you, it's because every interaction felt like it had an agenda, and every message felt like a transaction. That is pressure. Now compare that to somebody who has checked in on you, remembered what is important to you, shares useful information, offers help that you might need. That's presence. And presence is what builds relationship. Remember, the goal is not to ask for something. The goal is to be remembered. When many agents think about staying in touch, they assume that conversation has to lead somewhere, a referral, an appointment, a transaction, an opportunity. But that is not the goal. The goal is very simple: remain top of mind. Because when people think about buying or selling a home, they rarely choose an agent that they saw a year ago. They choose the person they remember. They choose the person they trust. They choose the person who consistently showed up. And the irony is that agents avoid staying in touch because they don't want people to think that asking for business. But staying in touch isn't about asking, it's about being remembered. There is a really big difference. And do you know anybody who's looking to buy and sell? And I was thinking about you and wanted to know how you were doing. One is asking, one is connecting, and the connection stays top of mind. Look, I know the real fear here isn't about being pushy. The real fear is about being judged. When agents say, I don't want to be pushy, what they're often saying is, I don't want people to think badly of me, or I don't want to be rejected, and I definitely don't want to feel uncomfortable. In the last blog, we talked about stories that you create in your head because those stories create behavior. And a story that you're going to sound pushy creates avoidance. That's when you postpone calls and and you skip follow-ups and you tell yourself you'll do it next week, which you don't do. And then you're surprised why the relationship feels different. So let's talk about the presence filter. One of the biggest shifts I made was staying in touch isn't about business. It's about maintaining relationships. So when your goal is, I hope you buy or sell something, you show up one way with one kind of energy. But when your goal is, I want to nurture this relationship, you show up completely different and people feel the difference. So use this thought process. Before you reach out, ask yourself, am I trying to get something or am I trying to give something? So if your primary goal is to get a lead or an appointment or a referral, that's pressure. And if your primary goal is to congratulate or connect or encourage or support or to help or to inform, people will feel cared for. Then ask yourself this: if I weren't in real estate, would would this call still be a thoughtful thing to do? And if the answer is yes, send the text, make the call, write the note. Because caring is not pushy. Remembering people is not pushy. Being helpful is not pushy. Building relationships is not pushy. And here's the irony: the agents who stay top of mind aren't the ones asking for business. They're the ones making connection and the ones that remember. So instead of asking, how can I get business today? Who can I reconnect with? It's just that simple. Don't try to extract value, try to create value. So here's the bottom line. Many agents believe if I want to stay in touch, people are going to think I'm pushy. But being pushy isn't about staying in touch, it's about showing up with an agenda. Relationships grow when people feel cared for, not sold to. So the agents who are getting consistent referrals from their sphere of influence are making meaningful connections. And those connections are what turn into this repeat business and this long-term growth. Because at the end of the day, relationships always win in this business.